Greetings. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show, live and on demand here on BlazeTV radio podcast. I am Steve Deace. Aaron McIntyre here with me, as well as Todd Erzin. The number here at The Blaze, 888-900-3393. That's 888-900-3393. Steve at stevedeace.com. That's the email address. You can try, emphasis on try, liking us on Facebook. I had hoped, since everything else, all these other restrictions are being lifted right now, I had hoped Facebook would lift the shadow ban. So far, the answer is no.
You know, it's kind of comforting, though. It's a sign of normalcy.
Yeah, there is something uniquely comforting about still getting spanked by Facebook's account. You're right. You can also follow us on Twitter at Steve Deace Show. It's the little things in a time of crisis you learn to appreciate. The last name is spelled D-E-A-C-E. And if you're looking for clips of this show that you can sample or share, just go to youtube.com/Steve Deace. youtube.com/Steve Deace. That is what it is, right?
/Steve Deace.
Okay, wanted to make sure. All right. Coming up a little bit later in this hour, we're going to discuss some lessons we are learning from this coronavirus pandemic, outbreak, crisis, whichever term you prefer to use, overreaction, whichever. But we've already learned a few lessons from this, which we are likely to memory hole later, which is why I want to get them on the record right now. Okay, we're going to talk about that coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Next hour, we are going to look, we're going to have a unique fake news or not. We're going to look at one panel that recently aired on television, going back and forth on the politicization of the coronavirus outbreak, pandemic, overreaction, whichever term you're using in your home. Okay, and then we're just going to have our own panel conversation and react to it here in studio. You guys ready for that?
Yeah.
That'll be for fake news or not coming up a little bit later on. And then we're going to end on a high note with the movie theaters around the country closing today. I hope that you got a chance to get out to see the new movie, I Still Believe. We're going to talk about it today in Pop Culture Tuesday because I think it's an extraordinary film. I was blown away by how good it was. I was shocked, especially because it is not necessarily my go-to genre. All right. So we will talk about that and more. But first, here is Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by another Wuhan coronavirus update.
We'd much rather be ahead of the curve than behind it, and that's what we are. Therefore, my administration is recommending that all Americans, including the young and healthy, work to engage in schooling from home when possible, avoid gathering in groups of more than 10 people, avoid discretionary travel, and avoid eating and drinking at bars, restaurants, and public food courts.
President Trump was also asked how long he expects this thing to last.
It seems to me that if we do a really good job, we'll not only hold the death down to a level that is much lower than the other way, had we not done a good job, but people are talking about July, August, something like that. So it could be right in that period of time.
Stocks had another terrible day yesterday, finishing by completely wiping out gains made during the last 3 years. The Dow Jones dropped nearly 3,000 points on the day. 4,600 cases have been confirmed in the United States of the virus, with 85 deaths. That's according to Johns Hopkins. Checking in on New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio, after ordering all public establishments closed to stop the spread of the virus, was spotted at the gym yesterday morning. CNN asked him about it.
Twitter lost its mind.
I don't get it, but we'll move on with our lives. The gyms are all closed now, Allison.
Yes, I know that the gyms are closed. Is there any sense that you were late personally to get your arms around what the sacrifice that's required?
No, everyone is going to have to make sacrifice, but as our health commissioner said yesterday, people still are in new ways are going to have to get exercise. Whatever scenario, we're going to tell people how to stay healthy. It may be a walk, it may be a jog, but obviously socially distanced until and unless we get to the point of literally ordering everyone indoors. So this is going in stages. Somehow people are going to have to stay healthy and sane through this, and it's going to take a lot of improvisation for sure.
New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut have enacted an 8 p.m. curfew because you can't catch the virus before then. China's state-run news agency tweets, "Racism is not the right tool to cover your own incompetence." They know us so well. ISIS has told its followers not to travel to Europe for attacks because of the coronavirus. Mitt Romney proposed sending a $1,000 check to every American in a bid to boost the economy during the virus outbreak. In Ohio, the Cuyahoga County Court released hundreds of inmates from the Cuyahoga County Jail over the weekend due to the coronavirus. Judges there are concerned about the virus spreading through the jail. Judges held special sessions on Saturday morning to settle cases with guilty pleas and release them outright or on house arrest. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine filed a suit yesterday in a bid to postpone the Ohio primaries, which were scheduled to take place today. A judge dismissed that suit. Later, at the behest of the governor, the Ohio health director defied the aforementioned judge's ruling and postponed the primary anyway, obviously citing the public health risk. Learning Spanish today, today's phrase is, I was reliably informed you could not defy a judge.
Me informaron de manera confiable que no podía desafiar a un juez.
Across the rest of the primary landscape, officials in Florida, Arizona, and Illinois say they're going to go ahead with today's vote despite the national emergency. DNC Chairman Tom Perez, your thoughts?
Is your view that this can be safely conducted tomorrow? Who have you been consulting to come to that view?
Well, again, we didn't intervene in that case.
No, I know. This is a state matter, but I'm asking your position as Tom Perez, the head of DNC. Sure. My understanding is you're saying you agree with the states that are going forward.
Yes, we respect what they're doing. And again, the point I'm making is there's a broader issue here. And that broader issue is we ought to make it easier for people to vote.
Speaking of Tom Perez, he was asked by Axios if pro-lifers have any place in the Democratic Party.
You said every Democrat needs to support abortion rights and that it's not negotiable. Your words. Mm-hmm. Where does that leave someone like Governor Bell Edwards in Louisiana, pro-life? In your mind, does he belong in the Democratic Party?
I respect Governor Edwards. I profoundly disagree with his position on this issue.
Cardinal Timothy Dolan is a leader of the Catholic Church in America. He wrote this after you made those comments. It saddens me and weakens the democracy millions of Americans cherish when the party that once embraced Catholics now slams the door on us.
Well, actually, the majority of Catholics voted for Democrats in 2016. So apparently the Cardinal may not understand that, Matthew 25 is a pretty important teaching. And Matthew 25 says, when you were hungry, I fed you. When you were naked, I provided you with clothing. When you were an immigrant, I welcomed you. I think one of the reasons why so many people are moving away from Donald Trump is that he's abandoned all of those values.
For something completely different, former New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady, boy, that's weird, announced this morning he's leaving the team for good. He made the announcement on Instagram. Brady is a free agent for the first time after spending 20 seasons with the Patriots and winning 6 Super Bowls. And finally, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Come on. See, the important thing is that you stay at home because there's a curfew now. Okay, no one is allowed out, especially someone that is like 72 years old. After you're 65, you're not allowed at the house anymore in California. So we stay home and we eat here. Right? Oh, yes, that's yummy.
Yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger is urging all of us to stay indoors while he feeds his miniature pony and a donkey at his kitchen table. And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's montage is brought to you by Ruff Greens VitaSmart. If you're going to be feeding your dog in the house the way Arnold Schwarzenegger is feeding his in that absolutely ridiculous video.
Those are not dogs.
And they're not dogs, no. Here's the thing with your dog's food. Similar to our own food, it's stripped of a lot of the live organisms we need for nutritional value, right? So it's just tasty, but lacking those healthy microbacteria, probiotics, prebiotics, and a lot of the other things that make it nutritious in the first place. And that's because they need it for mass consumption. And they need it to have a 2 to 3 year shelf life. Same reason they stripped that out of our foods, which is the reason why so many of us are taking supplements nowadays. All right. Well, your dog needs that as well. And that's where Ruff Greens VitaSmart comes in. It is not a dog food. It's a supplement to make your dog's food even better. And apparently it tastes great because our dog Cap absolutely loves it. We make it a part of his regimen every single day. And if you want to take the Ruff Greens VitaSmart 14-day Jumpstart Challenge, you can do so right now for just $14.95 to see the difference in your dog as well. $14.95. Take the Ruff Greens. That's RUFF Ruff Greens 14-day Jumpstart Challenge. When you go to ruffgreens.com, again, that's RUFF, ruffgreens.com/blaze. That's ruffgreens.com/blaze. We are going to discuss the free agent decision of Tom Brady to move on from the New England Patriots in today's overtime, if only because we need another topic to discuss. I think all of us do right now. So that will be for later today for our Blaze TV subscribers. Arguably America's greatest pro athlete since Michael Jordan. In fact, I don't even know that's arguable. Well, do you consider Michael Phelps a pro athlete, even though he's Olympian? How about American team sport athlete? Can we say that?
Well, there's Patrick Mahomes too.
Okay. So we're talking about America's greatest team sport athlete since Michael Jordan in Tom Brady. Goodness.
That's so air.
It's going to be a long couple months, man. A long couple months. All right, we'll be discussing that and him moving on and what that may or may not mean and why Todd is systemically, endemically offended at this gesture, at this move. We'll get into that today in the overtime. If you are a subscriber to Blaze TV, just go to blazetv.com/Deace. blazetv.com/Deace, and you'll get to see it later today when it gets posted. If you're not yet a subscriber to Blaze TV and would like to become one, go to that exact same website, blazetv.com/Deace. You can subscribe right there for a discount to get all of the exclusive content we produce each day here at Blaze TV, because right now, many of us ain't got nothing but time, right? So we talked yesterday that our official show position has been from the start of the year, assume you're being lied to. We are going to ask critical questions. And the mere asking of them, some of you, given my inbox, didn't seem to understand that the asking of the questions meant we don't know what the answers are and we're trying to find them. And we're like deeply offended that we would even dare ask questions. I am fascinated by the notion that you subscribe to a place like Blaze TV or listen to a podcast like this and are status pliable on that kind of a level. And maybe actually that's a good thing because you need a platform and a show like this, maybe more than anybody else, more than other people do. All right, we're asking questions that we think should have answers. Okay, because we're changing our way of life here. Lives are being threatened. Livelihoods are being ruined with no assurance of when or if this will return. And I think the people deserve to get some answers. So here's a couple of questions I have today. Can someone explain to me why I am more likely to contract coronavirus until 7:59 p.m.? Does the virus die at dusk? Well, then, I mean, why didn't we just say so then? Do you know? Do you know why at apparently 8 p.m. at night, I am less susceptible to coronavirus? Do you know the answer to that, Todd?
I do not. In fact, more people are out, generally speaking, during the week, during the day, which is when you would want to put limitations from a social distancing perspective. Okay, Aaron, what about you?
No, I do know if you Thriller from Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Isn't there some instructions about things coming out at night to haunt you? Maybe that's what they're going off of.
Yeah, but it starts with it's after midnight is the opening line.
Oh, so from 8 to 12, that still doesn't solve.
So you're good there. Yeah. I mean, I remember the old Iowa State and Michigan basketball coach Johnny Orr had the famous line, "Nothing good happens after 1 a.m., coach." Right? Okay, but I mean, that's probably just like a good life verse in general. Nothing good happens after 1 a.m. But if you're out on the streets, but does anybody? And so this one, I know the answer to, and so do you. This is about controlling people. That's what it's about. Because That's all. That's what it's about. People control. That's why you do it. And you have to decide whether the level of risk is worth the juice is worth the squeeze, as you know we like to say in the world that I often operate in when it comes to raising money or candidates or media or is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the level of tyranny being exemplified? Does it merit what is the risk? And that's not, by the way, to be perfectly fair, that is not a uniform construct. This is what always kind of separated me. One of the couple of things that separated me from Ron Paul, even though I read in that movement, even though I read something from him yesterday I found fascinating. And if I'm in a particularly ornery move, I may even share it over the next couple of days. But I don't believe liberty is an absolute. I think liberty is earned. Right? I mean, that's why Benjamin Franklin famously said it's probably an urban legend, but it's oft repeated. You know, when the woman asks him as he's leaving, you know, the Congress, hey, what kind of government y'all give us in there? What did he say? A republic if you can keep it. All right? So liberty is not an automatic state of being. It has to be achieved, obtained, and then maintained and earned. But the question that needs to be asked as this proceeds further is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the amount of tyranny we are imposing here on people worth the situation? Like you made the mention yesterday, Todd, of, hey, if he wants to go full FDR in World War II, we're at war here, man. And our way of life is at stake, and this is a pass-fail exercise, okay? Let's roll, right?
If it's true, that's something I can get behind.
Let's do. Yeah, fire up the national anthem and let's Team America.
I'm a patriot. Absolutely.
Kick the tires and light the fires, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It is the fact that that's not what we're doing that we find worthy of being questioned on this program, and so we're going to keep asking those questions. Okay. The dates keep moving. The time keeps moving. I've got a good friend of mine who's not happy with me right now for doing this. And I told him yesterday, I cannot sit here and just do 2 hours of wash your hand PSAs. Number one. But number two, history has shown if you don't ask these questions now in the time of the crisis, because he wants me to wait until the crisis is over and then reevaluate where we're at. I'd love the luxury of doing that. History has shown that remember when we were going to find out who killed Jeffrey Epstein?
Who?
Exactly. Remember that shooting out in Vegas that was the worst in American history by a straight white male, in fact. Perfect setup for the anti-gun media coverage. And we never, ever found out why that happened, how he managed to build a small armory in the hotel in one of the most surveillanced areas on planet Earth, and nobody had any clue, despite the fact he stayed there for several days while building a sniper's nest. Nobody knew anything, and we don't know why he did it. That got memory hold. Gone. Right?
It did.
See, if you don't do this now, you won't do it later. And the precedent will be set that they can come this far. And then the next time, they'll go a little bit further. And then the next time, they'll just round third and head for home. No, yeah, ask these questions now. Because when this is over, we're all going to be very anxious to get back to our regular way of life and enjoy the accoutrements of the full accoutrements. Because let's be honest, we have quite a few of them right now. We got yes, they're closing the theaters. Major Hollywood studios, though, are releasing the films they had due to come out in theaters straight on demand, like the new Trolls movie. And I've seen several other films they're doing that with now. Okay. They put Star Wars and Frozen 2 out early. There's going to be a lot more of that the next couple of weeks. Yeah, you can't go to your favorite restaurant, but you can still have, Grubhub and DoorDash bring it to your door if you want. I mean, this is kind of a uniquely American. If you stop and think about it. All right, so like the sports networks are like, they don't have live sports, so they're going back to their vast vaults and running the classic games of yesteryear.
Just like Iwo Jima, Steve, just like Iwo Jima.
Yeah, this is a uniquely 21st century American kind of suffering on one hand, right? But the spirit that this country was founded on demands, as those of us who have inherited that legacy, it demands us to ask questions at times like this, to make sure government is not letting a good crisis go to waste. Ask these questions. Why is it after 8 o'clock I am uniquely susceptible to this virus? Why? Especially because who's more likely to be out at 8 o'clock? The elderly and people with poor immune systems that are the ones that are overwhelmingly targeted by this virus, or healthy people between the ages of 25 and 50.
Bingo.
The latter. This is about people control, and you should be uncomfortable with it, in my opinion. You should be asking a lot of questions about that, and not just readily just assume the position and be malleable on that level. Here's another question I have today. Spring starts, this weekend, right? Officially?
I can check on that.
Yeah, I think it's this weekend. I think it's the 21st, this weekend. So soon, spring allergy season will begin. And some of the warmer climates in America, in the Southeast, it's probably, in the over there where you got beaches in the South, it's probably already, in the Sun Belt, already happening, I would imagine. Millions of Americans are soon going to have symptoms like a dry cough, a runny nose, sinus respiratory discomfort.
My 9-year-old daughter woke up this morning with a sore throat.
Yeah, because of the drainage in the back, right? And what's going to happen is they're going to get all stirred up because of the coronavirus panic. And they're going to flood the healthcare system, convinced that they have coronavirus, when it's the same bush that's been blooming in your backyard every year you've lived in that house at the same time of year. Boy, I mean, that's going to be, to quote the great prophet Elton John, that's going to be more fun than a barrel full of monkeys when that happens. If I were in the White House press corps, that's a question I would ask today. What do we say to Americans right now that are going to be suffering from allergies, and those symptoms look a lot like the basic symptoms of COVID-19? How do we know whether to go get a test or, just take the same locally grown honey, homeopathic, or whatever other remedies we use to get through that time of year? Okay. How do we know the difference? What do we do? You've got us all stirred up. You've ended our way of life for the foreseeable future. Well, how do I know it's the same mulberry bush in the backyard? How do I know that's what it is? How do I know I don't have coronavirus? Do we have any answers to that? I'm just a hick from Iowa. Yeah, I'm not like one of these experts who thought, don't close the borders, that makes you racist, and let's outsource. I keep being told by some of you, what do you think you're one of the experts? You mean the experts who said, hey, I got a great idea for your society. Get rid of your entire manufacturing infrastructure for your own goods and services, and either outsource them to your primary economic rival in the world, or let the third world country on your southern border ship its labor up to drive the labor costs down for your wage base, and do it for slave labor wages and treat it like chattel while we open the door for human traffickers instead. And oh, by the way, let's have that same economic rival produce about 80% of the world's antibiotics. You mean those experts, those ones that I'm just supposed to bow the knee to reflexively without ever questioning whatsoever? You mean those people, those ones?
The same ones who open the gate wide open to transgenderism?
Right. By the way, the gate is still wide open on your southern border as we speak. So we'll get into that here in the next segment, because that's one of the lessons you're going to learn is illegal aliens and human traffickers matter more than you. You're learning that right now. Okay. But I'm going to question the experts. This isn't a plutocracy or an oligarchy. It's a republic. All right. It's supposed to be a representative one. So I will certainly defer to anybody who on virology, pathologies. But when we get into policy, that becomes an issue of worldview. Okay? Similar to, I don't know nearly as much about the age of fossils as a geologist does. They're a geologist. I'm a talk show host. But I can stand toe-to-toe and go back and forth with one without knowing the terminology when we get into things like the origin of the human species and the age of the earth. Why? Because at that point, we're no longer discussing geology. We are discussing his worldview or hers. That is guiding the way that they see the data and the information. So we start getting into areas of public policy. I don't know anything at all about the pathology of the coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus. I don't. Which is why I'm not giving you any. But you know what I do know a lot about? Worldview, public policy, historical precedent of how moments like this have treated the human condition in the past. I do know a lot about that. And I'd probably take my knowledge of those situations up against just about anybody else, which is why I'm hosting a show like this, because I can stand toe-to-toe with most people and do that. So you guys want your expert? I'm your expert in some of those areas. That's why I'm here. That's why I have this job, because I can do stuff like that. So when we start talking about pathologies, you tell me. When you start telling me that at 8 o'clock I have to cease walking my dog at night, no, now we're not talking about a pathology. Unless this virus is a nocturnal emission, now we're not talking about a virology or a pathology. Now we're talking about public policy, and I'm going to need more. You're going to have to give me some answers that you're not currently giving for me to just immediately. Doesn't mean by the way, this does not mean my answer is no. My answer is I don't have an answer because you haven't given me all the information yet. Right? It's like when your kid walks up to you and says, "Hey, do you mind if I go meet so-and-so?" Well, who is so-and-so? At what time? How do you plan on getting there? What are you going to do while you're there? What's going on while you're there that makes you want to go there, right? Would I be a good father if I didn't ask those questions?
You would not.
Or should I just have Twitter and my inbox tell me, why do you hate your kids, Steve? Why do you hate your kids? A good father asks the kinds of questions to get a fuller context, right?
Yes.
Shouldn't a good citizen be doing the same? Shouldn't we be doing the same?
We must.
And on this show, we think you must. So we will. All the way to the end, we're going to ask those kinds of questions. I understand that'll be upsetting for some of you, and that's okay. You've got a lot of other options. Don't let us ruin your day. You've got a lot of other things now that are home all day long and in your face that are probably going to agitate you. You don't have to put up with most of the time. All right? Don't add us to the list. So if you don't want to critically think, you don't want those questions asked, and you just want marching orders, God bless you. You know what? That's what every cable news network is for. But we're going to operate under the presumption that if you put up with us for this long, you know this is just how we roll. We're not joiners. We don't instantly just fit, alongside everybody. We're not part of the buddy system. We're a bit contrarian and ornery where that's concerned, and that's just our makeup. And so we're going to ask questions like that. And given the extraordinary circumstances we are facing right now as a people, we actually kind of think it's wise if more people followed suit, actually, in this case, and asked more of these kinds of questions. Ask more. I mean, I had a woman write me an email yesterday telling me it was dumb, pointing at the example I was making of in Washington State, if I took my kid to Applebee's, I was a criminal. But out my back porch, if I watched a plane of Chinese nationals flying into Vancouver, what's the point of that? Well, there must have been some point of that, because shortly after people like us were making this point, what did the boy king up there in Canada finally do? What did he finally do? Shut it down. So it must be some kind of a point. Again, if you want pointless banter, there's a million other places to go. And right now, we could all use all the business we could get. So I'll happily outsource you, since we've outsourced everything else that matters in our country to us. And we're learning the lesson from that right now. But if you don't want these kinds of questions asked, then don't tune into this. Save yourself the angst. There's enough going on in the world without us driving you that insane. For the rest of you, if you want the questions asked, we'll ask them together. we may disagree on the answers. I don't know what all the answers are. I just want to know that the people who tell us they do actually have them, because Lord knows we cannot trust our press to be asking the questions. I think we have learned that lesson over the last few years. It is shocking that your home can be stolen this easily. That is the brutal lesson that Deborah learned when thieves found her home's title online. They then forged it and literally took ownership of her home. In an instant, thieves legally owned Deborah's house. She got evicted, lost over $80,000 in equity, and spent a fortune in legal fees trying to get it back. The FBI calls this home title fraud, warns that it's one of the fastest growing crimes. And oh, by the way, with everybody at home now, nothing else to do, thieves are going to be spending even more time online looking for people like us. So that's why you want to protect the online title to your home with Home Title Lock. The legal documents to our homes and are kept online where thieves can hunt for them. They then forge the document stating you sold your home to them, or they borrow against your home's equity and then stick you with the payments. No insurance or bank protects you, but Home Title Lock does. You could already be a victim of home title fraud and not even know it. Find out right now by registering your home at HomeTitleLock.com. That's HomeTitleLock.com, and enter Steve for 1 month of free protection. Promo code Steve at HomeTitleLock.com. That's HomeTitleLock.com. So we've learned some interesting lessons the last few days. We've already learned, and we've already spoken on this show, that we need to reevaluate our entire relationship with China, the outsourcing of our manufacturing base, our pharmaceutical base, et cetera. And we're not nearly self-sufficient enough as a people. And that globalization has gone too far. I don't believe in isolation either. You know why? Because I don't believe in false choices. That's why I don't believe in America's the mall cop, or we can just trade wampum with jihadists and change their minds. I don't believe in anybody's dogmas on these fronts. I think you have to be amorphous and adjust to the situation on the ground. And I think what this situation has taught us is we are way too globalized and need to be more localized. Need to bring more things home. All right. We've already talked about that on this show. That is maybe the biggest lesson of them all to learn from what we're going through right now. But there have been some other important lessons too that I would like us to note, like this one. What we've learned from coronavirus is data limits by mobile phone companies are a scam. They don't have to have data caps. If they're able to lift them all, when we're all going to be home for an indeterminate amount of time, all the kids are at home, all right, everybody's on the Netflix account all at the same time watching something different, right? And how many millions of homes in America? If I can't go see Nan, Pop, and Nana for a couple of weeks, so we're on the FaceTime talking to each other, and millions and millions and millions of people are doing this at the exact same time. Why did we need these data caps in the first place?
That's exactly right.
We don't is the answer.
Yeah. Well, we don't. Here's the thing. If you're a private company, you have the right to do that. Yep. Here's what also means from that. Yep. As soon as some company figures out, hey, these things are a scam, and we're going to get millions of more people to sign up for our service than all of these other companies with the caps on it, there you go.
Our friends over at Patriot Mobile, are you listening right now? Data caps are a scam. They don't have to do these. They do because they get away with it. Well, this has been, the last week or two in America has been quite the revealer, has it not? That is something we have learned. Is something a device you really cannot live a modern life in America without now. Some form of a mobile device. The data cap that is on it doesn't need to be there. There's no point to it being there. It's really just to screw with you because they can. Here's the second lesson I think we've already learned from the coronavirus. Republicans can actually defy court orders from judges, see the governor of Ohio yesterday, when they want to. Here's the key part, though. They just don't want to, and actually have hidden behind these court orders all these years as an excuse for why they don't have to take political risks. It's never been illegal for an executive to defy a court order. The Supreme Court is not supreme over the other branches. The judiciary is not the supreme branch. That is not true. I don't even believe, by the way, the branches are equal. I'll allow that because that at least, I know you guys, some of you have always wanted me to be more pragmatic, practice more incrementalism. That's my pragmatism, incrementalism. I will permit the skewed view that the branches are equal. I wouldn't go so far as to say that is a false view, but it is a skewed view. I'll permit that because, man, if we could even just get there, if I could see that in my lifetime, put that on my tombstone right after, I fought the good fight, I kept the faith, and I finished the race. Then right underneath that, carved in little letters, we made the 3 branches equal, Steve. I'll take it. I'll take that. Because that is such a giant leap forward for the rule of law in America if we even just did that. I mean, if we treated the judiciary the way the founders intended, most minds would explode. Okay? I mean, they put them in a closet originally. Okay? So I'll take equal branches because we don't even have that right now. What we have is Inspector 12, and the rest of us are down here making the underwear bands at the bottom of the hill while they put the official stamp on it. Well, yesterday, Governor Mike DeWine, who's a complete and total Republican, wuss, by the way, in Ohio, said, yeah, we're going to defy that court order, and for public safety reasons, we're not having our primary here. Did they call the marshal of the court to arrest Governor Mike DeWine? Did the sergeant of arms, who was Judge Wapner's guy? Rusty, was it Rusty the bailiff? Who am I thinking of? Did he roll up to the governor's mansion in Ohio there? It's John Kasich, his predecessor on CNN right now, clutching pearls. I can't even because this is just a renegade government. This is another Trumpian terrible influence.
We got to get Noah Rothman back on the show. You use the process, Steve.
Yes.
Use the process.
Yes, that was a conversation we had a couple of years ago. Nice pull there, Mr. Erzin. Yeah, funny. The world's not ending whatsoever. We could have done this with Roe. We could have done this with Windsor. We could have done this with Plyler versus Doe, which essentially says that illegal aliens are your new subsidy. We could have done this with all this garbage. We just lack the political will. And what have I always told you on this show? We are not a nation of law, and we never have been. We are a nation of political will, and we always will be. Donald Trump did not have to bend the knee to all these judicial edicts. Like a judge in Hawaii overruled his coronavirus test. Did you see that?
No, that was fake news.
I know. That was funny, though, wasn't it? Yeah. But all the other stuff that he's done, he didn't have to. He could have just told them, nah, but thank you. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and ban that travel from those Muslim countries overrun by jihadists. And if you don't like it, guns up, so to speak, and I'll see you on Election Day, and the American people get to decide whether I get to do the job, not 9 judges on the Supreme Court. How you like them apples? He could have been doing this all along. Could have done it all along. Just chose not to because he lacked a political will. Didn't want to take the blowback. Would fire up the other side's base. The whole system would come down on him. He's already fighting an impeachment and fake Russian collusion allegations. Doesn't need that fight on his hands. Remember when he was going to defy the courts on the census? And they brought all the conservative media there to the White House to talk about social media bans. And that was the event that he was going to announce that he was going to defy the court and order the Department of the Interior or Homeland, I can't remember which one oversees the census, but to include the immigration question on there anyway. Yes. And Bill Barr wouldn't go along with it. Because, Bill Barr loves to give speeches about, the deep, sinister forces that are at work in undermining Americana while not doing a damn thing about it. Because he's a bushy. That's what most Republicans are like. They give a great speech on these topics. He even gives a better one than most of them do, and then does nothing, less than nothing about it. Less than nothing. And that's why he didn't do it, because he's in the middle of an impeachment. He didn't want to have Bill Barr turn on him. Couldn't afford that, he thought. Again, it's about political will, not about the rule of law. We didn't have to obey these universal injunctions this entire time. Didn't have to do it the entire time. No, my answer is no, but thank you. Your opinion is rendered. The American people may decide they like your opinion more than mine. And if they get to do that and they vote me out of office, then somebody else will replace me who does what the Supreme Court says is the proper view of the Constitution. And you are welcome to enter into your opinion. You are not welcome to just make orders and create law. You cannot do that. And so it'll be up to the rest of you now whether you let Republicans get away with doing this to you for the rest of your lives. That's why we're having this conversation now, because I'm pretty confident, since past history, without a paradigm shift, past history is always indicative of future performance. I am pretty confident that we're going to memory hole all this about 10 minutes after everything goes back to normal here in a few weeks or months. That's why we're going to put all this stuff on video, on the record right now, so we can say later on, remember when we told you? Why are you letting them get away with this? So don't let any more Republican executives get away with, well, the courts told us what we had to do. And it was just, some pagan judge from the 666th district of Babylon, and my hands are tied, okay? And my advisors are telling me there's nothing I can do. That is complete and total horsebleed. That's a lie. That's a lie from the pit of hell. And that lie has been used by these leftists to undermine more of the original intent of this constitutional republic than any other lie that's been told in our lifetimes has been. And you learned last night, it's a lie. They don't have to do that. They can go their own way when they think it's the will of the people, because who's actually accountable to the people directly? The judges or the executives? The executives. That's why they were given the power to execute and not the judges. And if you don't like the way they execute, guess what you get to do with an executive? Vote them out of office. If you don't like the way the judges opine, guess what you get to do? Well, not a damn thing. That's why the power is in the hands of the executive and not in the bloggers in black robes. Here's the next thing we've learned already from coronavirus. Payroll taxes are bad for the American people, just like conservatives have said for years, if not decades. They're a terrible deal for the American people. That's why they're working so feverishly to try to get rid of them, because they're bad. It's bad. It's bad. Yes, Dana Carvey, George Bush, you're right. They're bad. So all the stuff they're saying right now, keep a running list of the regulations they're getting rid of and all that stuff right now. All the stuff that they're doing right now to stop us from suffering a Great Depression, when they try to put it back in place when this is all said and done again to get their power back, don't let them. That's a lie. They don't need any of this. They don't. Well, see, we won't be able to balance the budget. We're $21 trillion in debt. Really? Screw you. Give me my damn money back. You got enough of it. Can I get an amen on that?
Amen.
No.
Just print more, because that's what we're doing anyway. Just printing more money. Just print more. In the end, as long as our nuclear arsenal is more powerful than anybody else's, no one's calling the note in. So just print more money and give me mine back. I worked. Thank you. Next thing we learned from coronavirus already. Illegal aliens, drug cartels, and human traffickers matter more than you do. Who knows what can still come over the southern border as we speak, while you're being encouraged to self-exile.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Indeed. Yeah, you're being encouraged to self-exile, but that's all right. That's all right, because the Medellin drug cartel has got a whole new batch of human chattel making its way up to your town for that meat processing plant and human traffickers and everything else. So you're the second-class citizens here. You self-exile. The southern border remains open. And the fifth thing we've already learned, and this echoes what our friend Matthew Peterson at Claremont Institute talked about recently, there is much we leave our homes and families to do professionally that we just really don't have to. We just don't have to do most of these things. We just don't. I mean, if you're on an assembly line, you can't make my Cadillac converter from your house, right? Okay. But it's okay, because we gave all those jobs to China anyway. Most of the jobs that Americans do nowadays, unless you're in retail, service, something of that nature, first responder, but most of your jobs, or much of what we do for the jobs that we leave home for, we don't have to do that. We just don't. Your thoughts on that list, gentlemen?
Well, for me, it's number 2, and then spacebar. All
the judges, you mean?
The judges.
Yeah.
That can't be emphasized enough for several reasons. One, because it is something Steve has been talking about on this show and other shows, named the Steve Deace Show, well before I got involved in. He's been way ahead of the curve on this one. And furthermore, this has everything to do with who we are as a free people and the lies we tell ourselves on multiple levels on what can and can't be done. It simply took him saying, It's the Rosa Parks moment for Mike DeWine. Finally, just no. I can't look myself in the eye and do this anymore. Now, he did this on this issue. I'm confident he and others would go right back and start, getting the band back together to do it. But we should all be learning the lesson about why don't we say no more often to the preposterous way of doing things? Because it is come to be preposterous. So much of this has to do with the cool kids clubs and the virtue signaling, and it's not going to keep this country duct taped together for much longer. We're hollowing out. The revolution is already lost. We're protected by our gated community. We've got to get it back. Otherwise, all of our virtue signaling about, who we're trying to save here at coronavirus, the other virus that has been active for a long time and will continue to be in plague form after we heal whoever's sick from this thing, it's going to get us in the end. Our total loss of our moorings on the Declaration of Independence, who we are, why we exist, and that's why number 2 there with the judges. It's so vital that once and for all we heed the words that Steve just said.
For me, it's 2 and 4, because 2 is largely, at least at this point, why we have 4. So the thing about illegal aliens mattering more than you, it's easy to see why DeWine made this decision and had his public health director effectively overrule the judge's orders the other day, because he knew he would have public sentiment behind him, because everybody is on the same page right now in the United States that this is a pandemic, that this is their lives are disrupted. Their lives are disrupted, and that's the key part. When your lives are disrupted, what are you more willing to tolerate? Are you more willing to tolerate things that will potentially disrupt your life even more, or less tolerant of that? See, this goes to your point about a nation of political will. It's because most of the time our lives are not disrupted by illegal aliens until they are. And at that point, it's going to be too late.
I mean, Florida has the second highest elderly population in America.
They're voting.
So let's send them all out to vote today.
Told you, it's insane.
Makes perfect sense, right? Right. And we are back with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, podcast. Steve Deace alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. Steve at stevedeace.com is how you can email the show. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Steve Deace Show. And if you do like to listen to us via the podcast, if you wouldn't mind leaving us a 5-star review wherever you choose to podcast from, please consider doing so if you like the show. So many of you have done this for us already. Thank you. Please, though, keep them coming, because the more of those we get, the more it helps the show to grow, the more those all-knowing, benevolent algorithms actually seek out more people when they realize people might find this somewhat entertaining, amusing, maybe even the least bit informative. All right. So please keep those 5-star reviews coming, and thank you to all of you that already sent yours in. If you've not sent one in yet, what are you waiting for? Time is apparently very short. All the elderly are voting in Florida right now while they still can. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends over at Riduzone. Reality check. You made that New Year's resolution to diet and lose weight. Morbid obesity, one of those things that can weaken your immune system as well. Get back on the wagon. All right, because dieting alone is very difficult. And working out, which is going to be increasingly scarce now that they're closing all the gyms. Just got the email, my facility, which is actually, I work out at a medical facility, and it's closing. So working out is great, has a lot of health benefits, but you can't out-train a bad diet. right? So you got to get those portion sizes, those cravings under control, and that's where Riduzone comes in. It's the only FDA-accepted product that includes OEA, the naturally occurring molecule that helps you feel full faster and burns stored fat while reducing your calorie intake. Riduzone makes it even easier, therefore, to resist those cravings and get your portion sizes under control, because most of the time it's not what you're eating as much as it is how much of it you happen to be eating. So if you want to use my name as a promo code, Steve, you'll get up to 65% off, plus free shipping, up to 65% off, plus free shipping when you go to the website, riduzone.com. That's the only place you can get Riduzone is on its website. RIDUZONE for riduzone.com. RIDUZONE, promo code Steve. So for fake news or not this week, we're going to do something a little bit different. And we've already earlier this year, or actually we did this last year, wasn't it? We made this change. Last year we got rid of including any left America media. We did it last year?
Yeah.
Okay. We got rid of any left America media. We've had a couple of exceptions when the moment called for it, but by and large, we don't fact check propaganda. There's no point fact checking information coming from people who make it known up front that they hate you. I mean, well, now that we know that, then what's the point of listening to you, right? Okay. And I think that, let's say this thing does turn out to be as serious as the most dire warnings. One of the reasons that a large portion of this population treated it so cavalierly is because they've been lied to so often. You're the boy who cried wolf to them now, right? So we gave up on that. And by and large, and what we have spent our time with fake news or not the last couple of years now doing instead is looking at the persons and the platforms that supposedly are there to bring real news and opinion. And most of the time we can't tell the difference. To bring real news and opinion to what is left of traditional America. This is a panel that recently aired on Fox News. We're going to share about 2 to 3 minutes of it.
That is correct.
All right. It's a little under 3 minutes. You're going to hear numerous voices. All right. And I'm not going to have any setup. We're just going to watch this panel. And then the three of us are going to have our own panel and reacting to it. All right. How much of what we're about to watch, after we watch it, do we think this is fake news or not?
Every school in Alaska. Jesse, he flexible and dynamic.
Nobody
approach.
Was saying that you shouldn't be. You should take away flexibility. What you're saying is the national leader, the president of all of us, of Republicans and Democrats, might offer us some direction instead of giving us sort of happy, fluffy talk that, in fact, it distorted the reality that we are dealing with in our lives. I didn't think, and I don't think anybody on the five, I don't think any of us here on the five, Jesse, just a second,
to the public every day about it.
Jesse, he has not, but Jesse, let me make this point.
Go ahead,
I don't think one of us here sitting on the five thought that we would have to be sitting in little boxes because of this. I mean, I tend to be an optimist.
I did, and you didn't want. I did. I talked about this in the third week of February.
You have said that there was the media and the Democrats,
Can I actually weigh in on this? Because you've been talking for a while.
Oh, yeah,
all right. Number one. Scaramucci, when you were booking Scaramucci to talk about a pandemic, that means 7 to 8 people turned them down beforehand. He's not the bottom of the barrel. He's the stuff leaking out of the barrel. When you're booking him, it's a political booking. So let's be clear. 2. People are conflating again with words and deeds. What Trump is doing imperfectly is he initially was trying to address the panic that he saw in the stock market because he is our nation's cheerleader. Everything's going to be better. We got to get this thing going because optimism is his blood. All right. As for the virus, that's the experts' turf. Make no mistake, he got out of that way. He let them do that. And let's not forget, Cuomo was slow getting up to speed on this too, because he was doing the same thing Trump was, which was trying to slow the panic in the economy. So Trump was initially focusing on the psychological effects of panic. While his intention is good, he could have found his voice sooner about the actual concern. But this is new to him. I think he was trying to focus on trying to quell the panic while letting the experts deal with the virus. Deeds, words. And right now, you cannot match the deeds that this administration are doing. They're doing amazing work.
Yeah, that's why we have so many tests to find out who has it. That's why we have a vaccine. Although the president said, the vaccine's coming in a couple of weeks. Now we know it's years.
The president didn't say that, Juan.
You know what?
He said it was therapeutics that were coming in.
That's why we don't have an office in the NSC. We don't have an office of global immune threats.
Yeah,
no.
You're not politicizing.
That's all to be forgotten.
They have plenty of bureaucrats in Italy, and look what's happening in Italy.
Oh, now we want to compare our government to the Italians. Very good, very good.
Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders face off in the shadow of this.
All right, so that was the panel discussing I think this was back on a couple of days ago, the politicization of coronavirus that was held on a show called The Five on Fox News. And I believe that's the most of it that I've ever seen, because I don't like watch any of this stuff unless I have to. And I rarely tell myself that I do. So now that we have watched this, is what we just witnessed fake news or not? And tell us why you gave the answer you did. Aaron, I'll let you go first.
So, boy, there's a lot to unpack there. The constant yelling over each other. I don't know how to analyze that other than, hey, that's some good cable news right there. That's what you tune in for, right? People yelling over each other. So, as far as Juan Williams' case goes, there's next to nothing. And I mean that like 97% chance that anything Trump said from the beginning to right now of this entire crisis in the country, next to nothing, would have satiated somebody like him. If Trump would have come out right away and made all of these sober statements, he's fear-mongering. If Trump would have come out and said something neutral, well, we need more, or there's literally almost nothing that Trump can say for some people that it's going to be good enough for them. Just next to nothing. So there's that. So I think that's disingenuous. That's fake news. Calling on the president for real. He's been saying since this thing got serious, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, stay home. He's been saying that all along. I don't know what more. The sky is falling. Run for the hills. Flee for your lives, Denethor. I don't know. I don't know what you want to hear. As far as Greg Gutfeld goes, I believe that's great. Yeah, Greg Gutfeld goes, the second person, the second voice in that clip. Maybe that's true. When we start to go into the mind of Donald Trump, though, as some people do, and as we try to stay away from on this show, when you try to go deep into his motivations and what he's doing, I always get my four-dimensional chess spidey senses start going off. Well, Trump was trying to do this in order to do that so that this wouldn't be impacted, but really he knew he was doing that. It's five-dimensional, four-dimensional. I don't know how many dimensional, multi-dimensional chess is always what we try to get into, or what I think we're getting into when we try to diagnose the motivations of Donald Trump. So I think that because here's the truth, I don't know other than Trump. What's Trump's bottom line? I don't know what Donald Trump's motivation is on any given day, on any given issue, and neither do you. So once you try to start diagnosing that leads down the path of perdition and fake news. So I think that entire exchange, for the most part, is fake news. I just don't know what we're arguing about. Was that really about the politicization? The politicization of coronavirus, was that really what that was about? Or was that politicization of coronavirus? I think the answer is pretty obvious that it's the latter.
Before I throw it to you, Todd, I've got to call fake news on myself. At the very least, I've committed a citation level dude code foul. And thank you to Frank Golubsky for pointing it out to me. I think that's how your name is pronounced, Frank. I meant to say catalytic converter last hour. I said Cadillac converter.
I heard that. I wasn't going to pull your pants down.
Yeah. No, you should have. That was bad.
I already claimed Patrick Mahomes was a better athlete than Tom Brady, so I was on thin ice there.
Yeah. Now you know it's a crisis. Preemptive self-awareness from Aaron McIntyre. Now, you know what? Run for your lives! Aaron is practicing self-awareness, but no, I needed to call fake news on myself there. Thank you, Frank, for pointing that out. Todd, your thoughts on the panel before I give mine.
Well, what Aaron said is obviously true about Democrats and Trump. And it's what I said last week. We were talking about weaponizing Joe Biden. His goofiness, his zaniness, it doesn't really matter. How can we weaponize the guy? I said the same thing about the virus in its earlier stage back then about Trump. Everything. How can we hang Trump in broad daylight? Duh. But this goes beyond just Democrats. This applies, and it goes beyond Trump. It applies to us as citizens and our relationship with the federal government in particular, as embodied right now by Donald Trump. It applies to when we were talking about, Steve, you had a clip about a Fox News economics guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was asking, the markets need to hear from you, Donald Trump. The markets need to hear from you.
Charles Payne.
Charles Payne, thank you.
Yeah.
From the 85, the letter writer, a conservative, a fan of our show, who was talking about, I'm sick of all of the politicization. I just want to protect my 85-year-old grandfather. It applies to him as well.
You mean the email we got on Friday?
Yes. What do we want? What do we expect? What could any president have done 5 days ago, today, to please anybody or everybody? What magic talisman do you think they possess? Especially, this is why when we do emergency drills at schools these days about mass shooters, what would happen, and more research is showing those do absolutely nothing other than freak everybody the hell out. You do try to plan the best as you can for these kinds of things, but there is no perfect rule book for laying out day by day when you close something. They were absolutely just throwing stuff up against the wall when they decided to close all the sports first, but nothing else. Okay, I can even give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't know, we're just going to try something. Maybe psychologically this convinces people that this is serious because we're very passionate about it. I don't know. If they were honest about that, I'd say, okay, these times are tough. But as we've been saying, the math does not make sense on any of this. And if you are sitting there at home simply thinking that any president, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, simply know, hey, just pull out my manual here. Step 1 says that does not exist. So Greg Gutfeld, I think, was actually pretty close to true news on that thing. A guy like Donald Trump absolutely was just going to try to keep the markets calm, wash your hands. Most people clearly agree with him. Still down there, old people going to the polls. Maybe we'll see that they're not going. People on the beaches down there. A lot of people, despite all your virtue signaling on Twitter, think that, this is sad. This is frustrating. We're going to hope for the best, but it doesn't make sense to shut life down the way we're seeing at the very, very least. So I think Greg Gutfeld was pretty close to the real thing on the instincts Donald Trump was following, and he meant them sincerely, and he wasn't trying to ignore anything. So I think that's the kind of common grace that we clearly aren't going to be giving to each other. But for the most part, I think Donald Trump is showing more good intentions about this thing than most people on both sides.
So I have a question, and then I want to take an alternative perspective. One that I may not necessarily even hold, but I think has validity.
Sure.
Okay? So that we can play devil's advocate here. But let me start with my question first. Who's the intended audience for that conversation?
On Fox, the one we just
watched. Who's the intended audience for that, do you think?
The Fox News audience, 65 plus.
The committee to reelect Donald Trump.
And so it doesn't serve, you think, any other, I'm asking, it doesn't serve any larger value than just that.
The reality of the last 3+ years of Donald Trump did not suddenly go away or lessen because of this virus. It got turned up to 11.
Okay.
We don't need new reasons for what Fox News is just doing now.
So then this is so what I hear you saying, and if I'm wrong, tell me, okay? What I hear you saying though is, and by the way, that is like a universal edict on the show. If you guys think I'm wrong, tell me. But and I know you guys don't need me to hear that, don't need me to say that. I just like to reset that for the audience to be reminded of that. What I hear you saying there then is they're just re-racking the same process methodology of their normal programming, it just with a different backdrop. So before we could just change the backdrop from Russian collusion to moving the embassy to tax cuts to infrastructure to defunding Planned Parenthood. And it just so happens that it's now in the context of coronavirus, but they're essentially re-racking, they're just running it back basically.
I can only go by the 10 minutes or so we just watched, but that was not outside of the norm somehow.
Okay. So that actually then, the reason I asked my question first is because your answer would actually segue perfectly into the alternative view I want to take. And this is literal contrarian. I may be sympathetic to this view. I wouldn't say I hold it quite yet. Maybe is that fair? Okay, to be honest. But I think the reason why I'm sympathetic to it is I think it has merit worthy of considering. But I'm not fully willing to commit to it yet. That's why I want us to discuss it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Is it possible, because of what your answer was to the previous question that I asked, is it possible that the truth in our culture is really at this point unattainable? That it is quite possible. One of the, like Trump continues to be misquoted that he called coronavirus a hoax. Now he said that the media blow up about it was a hoax, right? That it is quite possible some of the things that could have been done in February on a much more piecemeal, less intrusive basis to avoid us going to the places where we are essentially tempting a Great Depression. Like the outcome from surviving the pandemic is you're going to go from that to a Great Depression, basically. Okay, or whatever the 21st century version of that is, with mass preemptive bailouts and UBI, stipends and things of that nature. Okay, that the reason we're here now is because the president has such an abject, visceral reaction, almost allergic, anaphylactic reaction to anything from the media whatsoever. That, and let's face it, we're not dealing with a person. This is not an individual that the still waters run deep. This is an id. We all know that, and some like it and some don't, but you can't deny it. This isn't a guy in his spare time contemplating the fates. He's not reading Cicero in his downtime. And this is a reactionary individual. Okay. And the media that hates him, pushing this on him, after pushing every other scam and every hoax on him, may have caused him to not do some of the things that he could have done piecemeal from the very beginning to avoid it getting to this point. And then likewise, on the other end, the media, because of the way that it views him and his supporters, really, I thought the best point that was made in the entire exchange is the one that Gutfeld said: if you're booking Anthony Scaramucci, you don't really care about the virus. You're scoring political points here. You're casting a narrative. And so the media that did that, and now all of a sudden okay, we've got 87 Americans dead, 30 at one nursing home. Oh bleep, that could be my grandma. That could be my nan pop, right? What are we gonna do about it? Well, now you can't get people's attention. You can't stop the millennials from showing up at the bars in New York City and hanging out on Broadway in Nashville at the Honky Tonk District, because we've seen all those videos, right? We've all seen them, because you've just lied to these people for so often, and you've conditioned them that all that this is really about is how do we hate Donald Trump today? And they don't really like him. Those age groups don't like him either, but they've got a larger life to live than just obsessing about Donald Trump all the time. And so these two dysfunctional forces come to blows. And caught in the crosshairs now are the vast majority of the American people who don't give a rip about Cheeto Jesus Saves and care even less about Orange Man Bad. That really want this whole thing to be about them and not about them, okay? Them as in the first person, us, them, okay? And not the them over there inside the Beltway. And you're ending my way of life, my livelihood, okay? My kids' education, moments, singular moments that are usually the kind that we catalog and, memento for the rest of our lives, graduations, weddings, etc. And we're ending all of those right now in order to serve this. And I need to know that you guys know what the hell you're doing, that the news I'm watching is telling me any morsel of truth whatsoever, that this guy is not just simply over, that his initial, look at his, when I watched the press conference he gave last Friday, the opening 15 minutes were dreadful. There's several things I haven't actually said because I just don't think they're constructive, okay? But now that he's had several press conferences that are much better, and that particular one got better as it went on. But the opening 15 minutes of that press conference, you see him visibly go off script. You see him visibly want to turn this into a mini version of one of his rallies and give him and pat and separate his shoulders, slapping himself on the back. And the rest of America is just waiting to see, am I going to live through this, right? And he wants to let you know about, that his administration's better. And he goes into his whole Bobby the Brain Heenan pro wrestling act. And you can almost just sense the people behind him were like, for shizzle? For real? Can we try adulting? Those instincts are constantly at war with one another. And the symbiotic dysfunction here has it made the truth unobtainable. And so most Americans now fall into two camps. I've given up believing that he has my best interest and that they are honest with me at the same time. I think he has a self-interest, and I think they have their narrative. Or they fall into the other camp, which is anything that conflicts with my balkanized political paradigm cannot be true. So when Chris Cuomo is out praising the White House today, the governor of New York, I hate Trump, that can't possibly be true. Chris Cuomo just needs more money from the feds. Or it can't possibly be true that we got caught with our knickers down. The reason Puerto Rico matters is that's where a lot of our respirators were made. Well, they had that hurricane well over a year ago. What the hell were we doing the whole time? It can't possibly be true that Donald Trump spent more time on Twitter kvetching about CNN witch hunt than making sure we replenished our ventilator supply, because that goes against my balkanized political tribalistic notion. And so we have these two camps where one group just feels hopeless. They don't trust the president will act instinctively in their best interest and not his own. And they don't believe the media will hold him accountable on any honesty level, but instead are worried about their narrative. And then everybody else just fits into one of these two tribalistic paradigms. Your thoughts on that?
You're describing the Tower of Babel.
Yes.
That is where we live. We are building a grand thing to the God of our own imaginings. Its poster child is My Truth and transgenderism. There is no reason to expect this was going to be any different than what you just laid out. It must be that way based on the things we have said and done over the last how many decades building up to this point. We cannot come together in chaos if we cannot come together as the richest, most blessed nation in the history of all of human civilizations. We managed to turn that into transgenderism. Mm-hmm. So here we are, parked in chaos and not knowing what to do about it. Of course we don't know what to do about it. Of course.
Your spiel there, Steve, reminded me of a conversation that I had with one of my buddies yesterday who manages a business and had just hired a new salesperson. And the salesperson is really worried now about their job. And my buddy, because of obviously the economy and the way it's tanked the last few weeks, and my buddy said to her, "Well, you're going to be fine if you just do your job, But all she keeps doing is sitting at her desk, refreshing social media and freaking out. Refreshing social media and freaking out. That is the operative phrase right now. Because all social media are these sides of the two coin, or those two sides of the coin. That feeds whatever it is, the panic that we're experiencing now, or whatever people's chosen narrative is on any given day. That feeds it. It's no different on cable news, even though a lot less people are watching cable news right now than they were 10 years ago. But it is this constant information stream of things that are not the whole truth. Information is not the truth. We have more information than we've ever had in the history of this planet in your hand right now. More information right here, available right here, than ever before on the face of the planet. Information is not the truth. In fact, probably the more information we've had, the less truth we've gotten. And I think that's part and parcel to what we're talking about right now.
And I'm reminded of a proverb. What can the righteous do if the foundations be destroyed? Right. And that's why yesterday I said we're gonna blow the Overton window even wider open. This is not a time. The last thing we need is more balkanization right now. To quote another proverb, there's wisdom in a multitude of counsel. This is a time to ask more questions, and diversify your portfolio where information is concerned, and put it to the smell test. How do we explain these sorts of contradictions? Do you know how many people voted in the 2016 Florida primary? Over 4 million. I did the math last break. Over 4 million people voted in the 2016 Florida primary. Now, that many won't vote this time because you don't have an open Republican contest when you had both in 2016. But let's say it's carved 70% down to 1.5 million. And that's the second oldest or second largest elderly population in America. Why are they going out and voting today? While teenagers can't play basketball or at the court, at the playground after 8 o'clock. Does that make any sense?
Nope.
Those are the questions we need to ask. Hey, losing your hair sucks, right? Well, you know what doesn't? Keeping your hair without leaving your couch. And if you're losing your hair, you gotta know about Keeps, because they offer the generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products. That's the real deal. And the generic versions of them will save you a bundle at the exact same time. So it's simple. Just answer a few online questions and then snap a few pics of your hair. And then a doctor will review everything and recommend the right FDA-approved hair loss treatment for you. And then that's shipped discreetly to your door. So you're probably wondering, does this stuff even work? Well, not only does it work a lot, but 66% of the men, 2/3 who use it, end up experiencing hair regrowth at the exact same time. So let's do something about that hair loss. Here's the deal. Go to keeps.com/grow. That's keeps.com/grow. And you're going to get half off your very first order, 50% off your first order to get you started at keeps.com/grow. Before we get to Pop Culture Tuesday, had an interesting little exchange in the last few minutes on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but I saw a tweet from someone in conservative media that I respect, and it had the trusty blue check mark, and it was a tweet from back in February attributed to Senator Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer from New York, criticizing Donald Trump for the China travel ban and saying this is just another ongoing part of his war on immigrants. Have you seen this tweet before?
No.
Okay. Well, I saw it from somebody in conservative media who I respect, who had put it out there earlier today. And so I lifted it and put my own, I took the snapshot of the tweet that was claimed to have been deleted by Schumer and given the current events. And I took my own snapshot of it, shared it with my following, and then had my own commentary on it. So this is what happens when you elect people who hate you. And now I still, it goes back to what I said a week ago. If we had said we got to close the borders in January to stop this from killing us in March, we'd all been called racist back then by a lot of the same people demanding that we don't care enough about this right now. A lot of your, a lot of your virtue signalers on the right would call us a bunch of racists for demanding they shut the borders down 2 months ago. They're the same people that are saying you're not overreacting enough alongside of the smart set people, right? All that same scam. Well, Chuck Schumer's communications director, Justin Goodman is his name, tweeted to me a link from PolitiFact, which said that this is a fake tweet. Chuck Schumer never tweeted this, and to stop spreading the lies. So what I just tweeted back to Justin Goodman, Chuck Schumer's communications director, I just tweeted this back. You guys tell me if you think this is okay. I said, I am unmoved by PolitiFact. The audience, maybe you've heard me say this before. If you send me something from Snopes, PolitiFact, Gateway Pundit, or InfoWars, I don't take it seriously, ever. I mean, I just view PolitiFact as just a leftist scam. And I told him I don't take that seriously. I'm unmoved by that. But if you give me your word, man to man, you give me your word that Chuck Schumer did not tweet this, I'll delete my tweet on your word alone. However, you should now ask yourself, why do so many people think that he would tweet something like that? That was my response. Your thoughts on that? And I have deleted the tweet, by the way.
I mean, I have no problem with you deleting the tweet. You handled it like a gentleman. Everything doesn't have to go to DEFCON 5 or 1 or DACE or whatever. The last part is the real discussion to have, and it goes because it dovetails nicely with what we just got done talking about with the Tower of Babel. Right now, you didn't even include. They are trying to still get those kinds of political points. You know, you would have, if you would have shut down the borders, it would have been racist. Even if you want to go the direction now and blame Trump, you're still going to get those racist points by saying you can't dare call this the Wuhan virus. So the game never stops being played. Show me at some point when you stand down on this nonsense. Because does anybody believe that Chuck Schumer isn't prepared to play this game for the rest of his natural born life when he dies in the Senate at the age of cryogenically 120?
I mean, he's been there longer than Aaron's been alive. Not in the Senate, but he was originally in the Congress. But he's been on Capitol Hill longer than Aaron's been alive.
You're not coming to the defense of a guy that isn't the master level Jedi of this game. To take umbrage with it now is a bit rich, but you took the gentleman's route and said, "Okay, I'll do it."
What are your thoughts, Aaron?
No, this is, these are the types of things where your instinct is either that's the arena that we're in, that's the petri dish that we're in right now. Sometimes sometimes you're going to do your best to discern, and then there's the other instinct, which is run for the hills. The abomination of desolation is upon us. There is no truth here. There's no aspirational thinking or doing or anything happening right here. This is spirit of Antichrist, not the Antichrist. Don't send if you do send your emails, send them to steve@stevedeace.com. But this is spirit of Antichrist type of stuff, where there is absolutely no finding the truth, nowhere to trust. That's freaky. That should be freaky anyway. So there's either two instincts here. Either this is just the way. This is just they're sloppy. It's never going to be clean here, or it's run for the hills.
So here's why I shared this with you guys before we get to Pop Culture Tuesday. I was genuinely interested in Todd and Aaron's feedback on how I responded, whether that was, according to the Dude Code, sufficient. Okay. The other, though, is I wanted to give you a window into what it's like to acknowledge that you're not sure what's true, what you're being told is true or not. And I mean, the reason why I fell for that fake tweet is because I trusted the source of the guy who has never steered me wrong. And let's face it, because doesn't that sound like something based on what we've seen the last few years? Couldn't you see Chuck Schumer saying that?
Of course, that's my point.
Yeah, exactly.
He will again, too.
Yeah, he probably will. And then some other context. Right. And I think this is so, because I know I get questions like, what do we do then? If I can't just blank watch or blank listen, I'm in the same boat, remember. I've got to have a certain level of confidence in the information I'm commenting on to comment on it to you. So I'll just let you know what I'm doing, man, is if I make a mistake, and if you prove it to me, own up to it, correct it, and I'm constantly trying to find multiple sources that will confirm the same alleged facts, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If I can get multiple people affirming the same alleged facts, then I'm in. And there's two reasons why sometimes if you follow me, you don't see me comment on things everybody else is commenting on. Number one, I don't feel a compulsion like I have to follow the herd and we've jump on Covington Cat. We've done all this. I've learned the hard way. Don't be in a hurry to be wrong. If you're starting a tweet after some alleged scoop about Trump with, if true, I've done that, made that mistake, learn. Don't ever start a tweet with that. It's always wrong. It's always wrong. There's never been a time, if true, turned out to be what actually happened. It has not occurred. And if it does in the future, it's not worth the previous 10,000 times you were wrong going there. Okay. So if I can't verify something right away with multiple sources, or if I cannot defend its plausibility on my own, I stay away. We don't comment on it. Nor do I feel like I have to follow a herd and comment on everything everybody else is commenting on all of the time. You know?
Just admit it. You hate old people. Yes, you do.
That's what's driving all of this. My various biases and bigotries. Yes, of course. Let's get to Pop Culture Tuesday, brought to you by our friends over at Genesis 950. If you are thinking of replacing your carpets this spring, whenever we get to do that spring cleaning, although I guess that's the one thing they are telling us to do more of, right? More and more cleaning around the house. They want to see more of that. So that's cool. Give Genesis 950 a try. It's an amazing pet stain and odor remover. It breaks down the bonds of stains and odors so that they are gone for good. And its antibacterial component removes pet stains and odors from the carpeting as well as the padding. It can be used even in carpet cleaning machines. And it's so green that it's safe for your families and pets as well. If you want to try Genesis 950, and you can use this on your whole house. It works on the nice stuff in the kitchen and the bathroom, that granite, that quartz countertop, the grease stains on the floor of the garage. It works on all that stuff, but where it really shines and can save you some money is the pet and stains and odors on the carpet. So you don't have to bite the bullet for that major purchase, all right? Go to Genesis950.com and use the promo code BLAZE to get Genesis 950 at a discount. Genesis950.com, promo code BLAZE. Genesis950.com, promo code BLAZE. So we won't have, I think we will see more direct to on-demand movie releases in the next few weeks. But for now, movie theaters, Regal and AMC are two of the largest in the country. They're closing today. I've not heard word on Cinemark yet. But I hope you had a chance to get out to see what I think it's a remarkable film, and it's called I Still Believe. And it's from the same filmmakers that did I Can Only Imagine back in 2018, which was a hit movie based on what's probably the most commercially successful contemporary Christian music song of all time. Mercy Me's breakthrough hit, I Can Only Imagine It. It charted on the main Billboard chart. It charted on the country charts. This was a transcendent song. And the movie surrounding it, we just watched it again as a family after we went and saw I Still Believe. We decided after dinner, let's watch I Can Only Imagine. The movie surrounding it's really good. And we talked about that at the time. And it goes into Bart Millard, the lead singer and the guy who wrote the song, his life living it with an abusive dad and watching how the grace of God literally transformed this man that he hated, as he put it, into, at the end of his life, the kind of man he wanted to end up being when he was older. And it inspired the song I Can Only Imagine. And the movie is really good. Now, this is kind of the same MO from the same filmmakers. Very popular contemporary Christian music song. I Still Believe, not nearly the hit I Can Only Imagine was, but doesn't mean it's not a good song in its own right. It's just saying, they made the contemporary Christian music version of Stairway to Heaven. Good luck competing with that, It's still a very good song, but the movie I think is actually better than I Can Only Imagine. And it goes into the life of Jeremy Camp, the singer and songwriter who wrote and performed the song, and his love affair with his college sweetheart that he met on campus at Calvary Chapel out in California. And they got married, and her battle with her several year-long battle with cancer, and that she had really a miraculous healing, where right as they're about to perform a hysterectomy to get rid of the tumors on her ovaries, literally they're gone. And they decide to get married, and they think they're in the free and clear, and then the cancer returns. And I'm not sure how many of you know the story and how it ends and things of that nature. So on the off chance, I don't know if Lionsgate that's a major studio that distributes this film, but they don't have like their own on-demand app. I don't know if they're going to release this to the iTunes, Vudu, Amazon rental world. Anytime now that you can't see it in theaters anymore. You think it was the number 2 movie in America last week in its debut. The movie is remarkable. And about once or so a year, I've talked about this before too, I take one for the team. Where my wife's not really big on these kinds of chick flicks, but every now and then she likes them, but she's not one to like rush out and go see every chick flick. She's most of the time happier going to see a Marvel or DC movie than a chick flick. But if one's really good and she hears from other chicks that it's good, she wants to go see it. And so once or so a year, if she can't get another chick to go with her, I take one for the team and I go. Usually we do it around her birthday, right before football, because her birthday's at the end of August, right before football season. And so I just kind of, that's kind of my, my preemptive down payment with football season about to arrive. That's how I ended up at Crazy Rich Asians last year. Okay.
You're getting soft in your old age, though, because it used to be a firm once a year. You just said once or so a year. There's some flexibility there. There
is a little flexibility in there. That happens when you've got a couple of teenage daughters. So yes, all right. There is a little more flexibility in there. So we all went and saw I Still Believe. And one year, The Notebook was my take one for the team movie. So I have seen that film. And that is a very good movie. Not my genre, but in terms of the quality of the storytelling there, it's very, very, very potent. I think this movie is just as good as that. And I was like, how is a Christian romance drama going to work? Right? Because you've got two genres that have trouble with the schmaltz, right? You know what I'm saying? Romance and Christian films have trouble with I think I was supposed to find that nice and stuff, but I don't know. It just kind of had a daydream believer quality to it. You know what I'm saying? It's Davy Jones coming out to sing the Psalms at the end. So I was concerned, how do you put these two together? And they did it masterfully. First of all, is it KJ Apa, I think is the actor's name, who plays Jeremy Camp. I think that's his name. And Britt Robertson is who plays his wife. Their chemistry is like unreal. Remember we both loved Batman versus Superman, right? But we thought there's no chemistry between Amy Adams and Henry Cavill at all.
Well, you were, I didn't think it was some great Hollywood thing, but you were deeply troubled by this.
Yeah, because this is like the great romance in the history of fanboy genre, Superman and Lois Lane. And this isn't Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher by any reasonable stretch of the imagination, Amy Adams and Henry Cavill. The chemistry between these two is if I found out like in a week they were actually dating or engaged off screen, I'd totally believe it. The chemistry between the two of them is powerful. Their acting performances of the two of them is powerful. I was blown away by how good it was. Gary Sinise has a supporting role in the film. He plays Jeremy Camp's father. Doesn't really do much, but the one scene that he carries is, I'll just say this movie broke me like on 3 different occasions during this film. All right. In 3 different occasions, I about grabbed my phone and tweeted, "I'm not crying, you're crying." Okay. This film, even Noah, who's now at that age, at 13, he's the 13-year-old boy. He's kind of like, he's not sure what he's cool to do, but he thinks he's too cool for everything at the same time. You know, remember when we were that age, sure. Right? Even Noah, when I asked him after the movie, hey, did you think it was good? He goes, yeah, that was actually pretty good. All right. So if you get a chance to see this before your theater closes, and if they bring it out early on demand, I could not recommend it more highly. It is extremely well done. Props to the Irwin brothers and the filmmakers to that film as well. Props to all of you for putting up with us today. We are back at it. We hope again tomorrow. Until then, John 3:17.